Serious, what is the best way to make the most of the last few weeks with a dying parent? Attention! Serious, tag notice jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an ARMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. I wish I had a recording of my dad saying my name. He had a nickname for me that only he used. I can hear it in my head but worry that over time that memory will fade. It won't. I know the feeling though. There are things I wish I had recordings of my husband saying. And my parents. Seconded. I don't think you'll forget. I loved how my grandmother laughed and I can still hear it in my head like she's in the room. She died in 1999. And I still see all my lost loved ones on my dreams, smiling and happy. Be with them. But if I could have, I would have recorded myself reading books for my mom when she had cancer. She was too tired to read. Also wished I had more pictures of her. I have no recordings. When my dad had his cancer, I spent the last 2 weeks with him. I watched TV with him. 7 sat through the Super Bowl. As he got worse and went into the hospital, I spent the whole time with him. Only leaving for a few hours for food and one night when I had a migraine in the 8 days he was there. It was hard. He went downhill so fast that his legs stopped working while his sister took me out to get real food. He couldn't stand the smell of food, so I was eating what I could grab from the vending machine. But I was there. I didn't get to be with mom as I didn't take her stopping chemo to mean she would pass away in 2 weeks. Thanks for the silver. Be with your loved ones and treasure memories of them. I kept birthday cards, etc. But do not forget to take care of yourself. Do not feel guilty about caring for the caregiver. Make the visits memorable, but I would not want my loved ones putting entire lives on hold. Only you know the right balance and can relax into the appropriate pattern. Take note that many patients nearing death prefer to be alone. Oftentimes loved ones will expire at the precise second their family takes a bathroom break. This is okay. Go easy on yourself and God bless. This hit too close to home. My mom decided to stop her chemo treatments last week, and I'm not sure how long I can go on pretending she'll still have plenty of good months to come. I would, with consent, try to record conversations with them for posterity, about their life, past, and just casual chat. Edit. I'm glad this has been helpful advice and I appreciate all the stories I've received in response. I can't reply to all of you, but I appreciate it. Strongly agree. I lost my dad 13 years ago and I have one good recording that I play whenever I find myself forgetting the sound of his voice. Which totally happens. And is heartbreaking when you realize this. You miss the sound of their voice. You miss the stupid story you've heard 9,000 times but suddenly can't remember how it goes. Have them tell it. Get recipes. Have them read your kids a book on video if they can. Ask questions. Write down the answers. Try to enjoy the time you have left. As a parent, I think that I would love to hear that I did a good job raising my kids and that they feel they had a good childhood. Reminiscing about good times, looking through old photos. I think just being reminded of the good life I had would be very comforting. I need to go call my dad. I just lost my dad a few weeks ago. I live in another continent to where my parents lived. I went back for about 10 days prior to him passing and told him all the positive influences he had on my life. How he influenced my appreciation for nature and the arts, sport and life in general. He was genuinely moved and grateful for that. It also has helped me a great deal in dealing with his passing. And #X200B, I am sorry that you are going through this. It is a very difficult thing. Just be there. That's all they want, and that's all that matters. Don't concentrate on making these moments count, or anything like that. You don't have to go checking off bucket list items, just be there. Talk. Tell stories. Ask them questions. Laugh. Read to them. Spend that remaining time together. And additionally, consider looking into palliative care. The care workers are extremely precious. Sometimes dying people have something on their heart that they cannot share with their family, and talking to a stranger, as weird as that sounds, helps them let that go. Some aren't able to die when there's still something outstanding. The workers also help you with medication, if needed, that can make it easier for the person to go, in case they are dying of illness. Also, if possible, talk to them about the funeral, not only about whether they want cremation or a burial or whatever. You'll be met with a shitton of decisions right after their death, and I'm talking right after they died. Like, the loved one still lying in the room, literally not cold yet, and the undertaker wants to hear about what decorations you want for the memorial ceremony. I've spent the last few weeks taking care of my dying grandfather at home, holding his hand, watching him diminish further each day and night. At last he wasn't able to speak to me anymore, but he appreciated my being there. Now he has passed and I'm met with a shitton of responsibilities that I have no effing clue of, nor do my parents. Plus my mom's fucking miserable and I want to support her as best as I can, all the while everything's shutting down because of COVID-19. No idea whether my grandma will be allowed to attend the funeral at all since they're isolating the retirement home. We thought we had planned out everything before, but things got a little rushed in the end, so when he eventually passed we just sat there, in the middle of the night, looking at each other. So, let's Google undertakers around town, I guess. It's macabre. And now, while looking for music to play at the memorial, I realize that I didn't even ask him once in his life what kind of music he liked, and it fucking tears me apart. You've already had countless moments. Millions of words. Thousands of hugs. You don't need last words. There's no closure, nothing that makes this much easier. All those words are final. Celebrate what you've had together. My dad suffered from an illness that took 5 years to kill him. He got progressively less lucid over that period, and for the last year or so he had no idea who I was. While that aspect was pretty heartbreaking, I don't regret any of the time I spent with him. He would very occasionally have moments of clarity and it was worth the hours and days spent sitting with him being non-communicative just to have a few seconds or a minute with my dad once in a while. So I guess whatever you do with your parent, the most important thing in my opinion is time. I hope you're as well as you can in the circumstances. I don't often feel much in the way of emotion, but damn, this really got me. Take care. Went through this with my grandfather. For the last few years, he was less and less with it. Didn't know where he was, bathroom troubles, thought I was his son instead of his grandson, etc. When he was very near the end, he wasn't really with it at all. I was working a lot, but stopped in one afternoon and spent an hour with him. I told him I loved him and shared a few fond memories, and, in that time, he seemed lucid enough to recognize me and share in the stories. It was a wonderful moment and I'm so happy we had it. He died a few days later. If possible, get them to a place they wanted to go to but never did. Take them to their favorite restaurant, bar, inn, even if it's a dive. Read the news, book or something with them, or aloud for them. Above all, support whatever decision they've made about approaching the end of their life, including directly talking about it, no matter how painful it may be for you. Best wishes for peace. I just want to reiterate, directly talking about it. My grandpa keeps talking about his will and worldly possessions after he passes and made me executor of his will. Like he's basically saying goodbye and that I will probably have to go fisticuffs with a couple of aunts. Sucks so fucking hard. My dad really wanted to visit 2 places, New Zealand and do a long drive around Vancouver Island. His friends and I got everything in place to do an epic trip to New Zealand, but as the date got closer to leave, he became more nervous about the trip, which was odd because he had traveled around the world 6 to 8 times a year since he was 26. The week he was to leave, he fell and ended up in the hospital for a month, was able to get all the deposits back, and the flights were paid for by miles. After he got better, we planned a trip to Vancouver Island, just a short ferry ride away, but it never got out of planning stage because he didn't want to leave the village he was living in. And 2 years later he died, another fall. I believe he was happy just imagining he was traveling. Google Earth gave him many of the views without the hassles of traveling. Also, he said he has seen things from a foregone time. Just spend time with them and talk with them and tell them the things you've wanted to say for years because this is your last chance. And be aware that you're always gonna miss them, and even after years you're gonna think about calling them to tell them something and it's gonna hurt all over again. My dad passed 8 years ago. He was in hospital for 9 months and was unable to communicate the entire time. I would bring my laptop in with his favorite DVDs and would watch them with him. When his eyes were too tired, we would listen to his favorite songs while I held his hand. Just being there was a worry off his mind and mine. Spend as much time as you can with them. My father died a year ago from cancer. The actual anniversary is in 2 days, March 15th. I'm gay, and he was a devout Christian, so we had much we disagreed over. He insisted that he didn't want to go away to hospice and instead wanted to die at home. My mom and I felt that was a doable thing, so I moved back home to help out for the final month, in spite of our differences. All I can say is that, while bittersweet, these were some of our best days together. He asked me meekly if I wanted to hash things out, but it quickly became apparent that it just wasn't necessary. We wanted to be together and have the relationship we struggled to have when he was well. We looked at pictures, told stories. I listened to some of his regrets, which has nothing to do to me, and I tried to give him absolution by hearing him out. My honest advice: serve. Focus on making your parent as comfortable as possible and be a compassionate ear for anything they might say. This is, of course, if they're able to communicate and your relationship isn't super toxic. I found that by focusing a little less on my concerns and focusing more on his, the time became more meaningful. I wish my father and I had the relationship my whole life that we had in those final days. We didn't, but we will always have those final days. And they were so meaningful. Talk. Be present. Serve. If you're going through this, my thoughts and prayers are with you in this tough time. It is so hard, but you will survive and get through. What a beautiful, wonderful perspective. Thank you for that. I'm so sorry for your loss. Wow man. This really struck a chord with me. I'm very sorry for your loss. I've been estranged from my dad for 15 years until a few months ago. This made me realize how much catching up I have to do. I hope my comment can provide you a little peace, happiness for sharing your story. As others have said, ask them to tell you stories. Ask them if there is anything they want you to do that they cannot. Play the favorite music as much as you can. Sit with them as much as they want you to. Even if they are in and out, they will know you are there. If they can eat at all, bring them takeout from their favorite restaurant. Even if they only eat a bite, it's worth it. As cheesy as this sounds, just try to be fully engaged with those last visits. Remember that this is just the last chapter in the book of your lives together, not the whole book. Helping our parents off stage is the sad but natural order. Try not to let the death stain the rest of the chapters of the book. I shouldn't have read this thread. Same, I wanna cry so bad now reading all these stories. I'ma go to bed. Do the things they used to do with you as a kid, and if they're bed-bound and you can't, then do something to bring those things to them, like if you went to the beach and had fish and chips at one of those beach shack restaurant things, go through an old photo album with them and make fish and chips for you to both eat while you do it. This. Little things make it. Ask the person dying what they want to do before leaving this world. My father knew he was dying. So he went around and did things he always wanted. Bought nice things for people he loved, went to places he always wanted, partied with friends and family. On his deathbed, he said he was very happy he could accomplish his bucket list. Depending on the state record convos to be able to hear their voice in the future, have them write you a letter so you can use their handwriting as a tattoo or a wall hanging, or have made into a pillow. If they cannot speak, get their handprint or record their heartbeat to again make a picture or record and stuff into a bear. Get a piece of their clothing to turn into a memory bear. Take pictures galore. For me, I didn't leave their room for the last few days until her soul did. I told her all the stuff I put off until someday. If they're able, give them their favorite meal, take them somewhere beautiful to watch the sun rise or set. Cross off something on their bucket list, appreciate every moment. Let go of the little things, keep you in my thoughts during this time. This happened to me very recently, so I'm going from experience. Just spend time with them. It may be difficult, they may be in pain or not the same person as they used to be. They may not notice you are there. It doesn't matter. You will be happy you did. At first it was tough to reconcile because I didn't want this to be how I remembered my dad, but looking back it brings a sense of closure. And when I was helping his emaciated body into the shower because he couldn't stand on his own, he had a moment of clarity and he looked at me. He said, "I am so proud of the man you are, and nothing in the world will ever replace that feeling." That he died proud of me. So my advice is simply to be there, because no matter how hard it is, you will be glad you did. So glad to read this, thank you. Reminisce about the stuff they remember but you don't, e.g. Your antics as a baby and child, the younger years, courtship, etc. Record it for posterity, even if you don't think you'd go back and listen to it. If they're physically able to, see if there's something they might be interested in doing. It needn't be something fancy or elaborate, just something meaningful for them. Like getting their hair done or a pedicure for a lady, or a drink at the pub or fishing for a man. I'm sorry for what you're going through, Op. In my opinion, from working in a hospital setting, being there with them is probably going to mean a lot. The worst situations in my mind were watching a patient pass away by themselves with only the nurses and CNAs there as company. 100%, and please, for the love of all things good in the world, respect their wishes. Let them be a DNR, do not resuscitate, if that's what they want, and pass away peacefully surrounded by family.